What's up, everybody? This is Littlest here.
What's up, everybody? It's ICanSnake.
Greetings, everyone. This is CC Trainor-Ling. But hey, enough about us. Let's jump right into that plot, shall we? So the plot here is Blythe decides to run for class president so she can remove the new flimsy water bottles the school is trying to sell. But more trouble follows suit when she learns that the biscuits are running against her as well. Meanwhile, the pets go crazy trying to find the source of a very irritating sound emanating from somewhere inside the day camp.
My first positive, and probably my only positive of the episode, is the song, 2 for 1. This was a great song by Shannon Shankan and Daniel Ingram. One of my favorite things about it was the instrumentation, especially the percussion, because, I'm a drummer. And the way they used marching snares in it was pretty cool, and I like the meaning of it.
I think I could speak for most people when I say 2 for 1 is the saving grace for this episode. Although it's a clearly auto-tuned song, it definitely hits in the right spot for me. It's catchy, it has great visuals, and it gets the point across a lot. And I'm not gonna lie, if I were to vote in this election, I would definitely vote for the Biscuit Twins. They know the ins and outs of polling and business strategies, and they know how to influence people's opinions because of their dad. The ice cream, the song, and all the tricks they pulled were definitely viable ways to get people to vote for you. Although Blythe was being real, the Biscuits were just having fun and doing things their own way. In a way, it reminds me of the US presidential elections, where sometimes the winner of the elections isn't actually gonna fix any of the real major problems because they know their way around business strategies and they know how to talk and get people to vote for them.
It's all about that razzle-dazzle feel that you give to the crowd, and it's like, boom, that's what's going to influence me. They're using these flashy colors, they're giving us all these great prizes. It's like, hey, why not vote for them?
Yeah.
And hello, it's the Biscuits singing. How can that be a negative? It simply can't.
Like, when are they ever a negative?
Yes, very true. Very, very true.
My next positive in this episode is the pet plot for me. It's really funny how a constant static noise can break the pets and make them go loco in the coco. And I really love it when they bring in insanity into any of these LPS episodes, just like Very Littlest, which is why I love it so much. It's funny how they debate if it's a hum or a buzz, but I'm personally on the side of buzz. And no, it's not because of Zoe.
Liar. Well, call me that guy, but I personally think it is a hum.
Buzz.
I think what really stole the pet plot here was, as soon as we come back from the second commercial, we see the pets completely losing their minds, walking back and forth, reciting that sound over and over, and of course, to seal the deal, Minka turning her head a full 360.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's just like an owl.
I lost it there. I lost it. I was scared. I was creeped out, and I loved every second of it.
Did anyone else get that vibe from The Exorcist?
Oh, yeah.
Like when they're
I
at the
think that
fridge
was
and they turn
obvious.
their head around?
And then we come to the insect versions of the pets. Strange, very out there, but I really digged the designs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really good.
Even their voices were just so... I really want to say cute, but maybe cute's not the right word, so I'm just going to use cute for now. And we find out that Mrs. Twombly is a beekeeper, so that's another plus.
Oh, yeah.
She's a woman of many trades, and I like it.
She's done a lot of stuff in her day.
A kung fu quilter, a shop owner, and a beekeeper. Yes, sir, she has the talent to do anything. Well, I think with that said, I believe it's time for those negatives.
Ekans negatives.
Oh, wait a minute. This is a new one. Cece has negatives as well.
Oh, no.
Yes, I'm almost as flabbergasted as you are. But Ekans, you can start this off.
I think my first negative would be that I didn't really like Russell's campaign strategy in this episode. I completely get he was trying to go for the right idea if you want to participate in a serious election, but I think that's the problem. It's a high school class president election, not a really serious election. High schoolers aren't eligible to legally vote in a real election, and if you know high schoolers, a lot of them don't take matters seriously. They want to have fun, they want to live their life and not be tied down with serious responsibilities. If they're listening to some boring speech like Russell was trying to get Blythe to do, they'll quickly lose their attention span and start paying attention to something else, something more fun, like the biscuit and what they were doing.
Right.
The biscuits were winning because of that reason, so it kind of irked me when Russell was thinking too ahead of himself and too maturely.
Well, I guess that makes a lot of sense, and I definitely see where you're coming from, but I think, as we've all noted, Russell is, I guess you can say, the the more mature one and the more intelligent one out of the 7 pets in the day camp. So I think his head was kind of in the right place, but I don't think he really understood what the actual result would be. He was just kind of thinking what he would do in that situation. He didn't really think how human teenagers would actually react to his idea. Since given his previous high school experience, people probably wouldn't take him too seriously.
Yeah.
Which actually brings it into my next negative. Her campaign. She was campaigning about water bottles and how they were really bad.
Hey, you try opening up a flimsy water bottle and not getting sprayed by it. It's like opening up a soda can that always fizzes over. Trust me, if I were in Blythe's shoes, I'd run for president too. I think Blythe had the right idea because, as you clearly saw, the other students were not happy about this as well, and they were actually, willing to get behind Blythe. But then again, the Biscuits jumped in and did their razzle-dazzle thing to wow them, and they just kind of said, forget Blythe. We get to see all the cuter gym uniforms and whatnot. So, who cares about flimsy water bottles? It's kind of confusing. I understand what they were going for here, but it's just really not my style.
Mm-hmm.
And now on to my negative, which would be the Biscuits campaign strategy with the advisors and paying off the kitchen staff to mess up Blythe's food association to get people to vote for her. I understand why the Biscuits were running against Blythe in the first place, which would be to stop these water bottles from being taken out of the school because of what we find out later in the episode, this being a Biscuit product. But still, it just doesn't sit well with me knowing that they're going this far. I understand the context that we were given about this situation, but to me, it just didn't sit right, but it's like,
Mm-hmm.
My next negative, it's really not a big, giant negative, but it's more like one of my minor pet peeves. It's Blythe becoming like the Biscuits, basically listening to Vinny's advice on saying, you have to think like the Biscuits in order to beat the Biscuits. I understand that that actually does work in many cases, and I've seen that happen on other TV shows that do follow storylines that are about elections, but out of all the characters, I really didn't think Blythe would be the one to really do something that doesn't seem like her. I understand that she's thinking realistically here, but consider that the episode we reviewed last week, Rustle Up Some Fun, about being yourself. To me, and this is just me saying it here, I didn't feel like Blythe was truly being herself, because if she was just being herself, she wouldn't have to act like the Biscuits in order to get her point across and to see if she can make a change. Just basically stooping down to the Biscuits level. Once again, it just doesn't sit right with me, and that's just pretty much it.
I mean, if she didn't do that, then the Biscuits would win anyway, so it'll be, bad for her.
That does bring up a very good point. I do like that.
I have one more negative, is that at the very end, one of them gets disqualified, and the other one drops out, and then some random person wins. And I don't even remember the name, I just did not care enough of this episode to actually remember his name.
The name was Reboot Election.
That was his name.
Just think about it for a second. Reboot Election. You write in a candidate's name called Reboot Election, and how convenient that there happens to be a new foreign exchange student who goes by the name of Reboot Election who wins by a landslide.
I could agree with that.
To me, it felt like I was watching Minka's Tap Hands. I mean, okay, it is a funny joke, haha, it's there, but it just doesn't really have the right kind of flow to it. As in, I don't think it has a natural flow to the story to make it sound believable. I understand it's a cartoon show, but I like to have a tiny little bit of realism put in here to make it sound like it's not like a forced out joke.
If I could go on with this thought when saying this ending was like a total cop-out and they just jumped the bucket at the end. It's a foreign exchange student literally named Reboot Election. How convenient is that? You would think Reboot Election would mean to restart the election with different candidates, but no. There just had to be conveniently some foreign exchange student in that school at the exact time of the election literally named Reboot Election. The name doesn't even sound like a real name that a person would have. I would think this is a definition of what a plot twist by M. Night Shyamalan, but I think this is a plot twist just to be a plot twist.
Although this kind of reminds me of that one episode of SpongeBob where SpongeBob and Squidward were trying to find out the names of all of the customers in the Krusty Krab, and the last person they had to get the name from was some guy
What's it to ya?
who, what's it to ya? That was his name, and it's like, it isn't a real name. I understand the humorous context behind it, but it just felt like one of those big plot twists. It's only funny at first glance, but really when you watch it over and over, it just doesn't have the same charm anymore, and it just doesn't feel right. At least to me, it doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Overall, again, I just did not really care too much for this episode, and believe it or not, in this episode, I had more negatives than positives. Overall, 6 out of 10.
This is one of those forgettable episodes in the same regard as Blythe's Big Idea. The only really memorable part of the episode is the biscuit song and the bees that look like the pets. That was a really nice little fun add-in they put in near the end of the episode. In a literal aspect, it makes no sense at all because honeybees would look nothing like exactly specific animals with the same colors. But in a comedic aspect, it's hilarious that the honeybees look like the animals and they share the exact same traits as the original pets. Whenever I go to watch this episode again because I keep forgetting what it is, I always groan to myself at the beginning of the episode and the scene, and I say to myself, oh, it's this episode, and then I shut it off. But overall, this is not a good episode, not a bad episode. I think it's kind of in the middle there, kind of boring. So I'll give it an 8 out of 10.
It seems rather coincidental that last week I reviewed an episode where our leading female character talked about being yourself, and now I'm reviewing an episode where the very same character doesn't hold true to that statement. Just for the record, I don't think any differently of Blythe following this episode, because she still has a great personality and amazing dynamics that make her very credible. However, I feel that her biscuity ways of trying to get the students to be on her side contradict the moral of just being yourself as seen in Rustle Up Some Fun. I understand that in the world of politics and national elections, people will do whatever they can to buy votes, but out of all the characters on this show who would act like the people they would consider rivals, if not enemies, I never expected it to be Blythe. This type of storyline has been done before on other television programs, and while I certainly understand why these storylines exist, to show how far some people will go to gain something in a somewhat political sense both in fiction and in real life, and even though I respect the different approaches each show takes to get from point A to point B in said storyline, it doesn't mean I'm obligated to enjoy it. I've never been a fan of election storylines, so naturally I'm not 100% behind this episode from LPS. To me, I felt Blythe could have stuck to her guns and not tried to imitate the biscuits, no matter how adorable I found her wearing Whitney and Brittany's signature clothing was. The students were clearly behind Blythe in getting back the old water bottles, but if they're so easily swayed by gelato and promises of cuter gym uniforms, then maybe they really don't care that much about an issue that clearly affects them. I guess if the students didn't care, Blythe probably shouldn't have cared either. Would that make sense? Well, maybe Blythe would have chased after this problem even without the other students, but it doesn't matter because in the end, I was very relieved when she said she was sorry for acting the way she did, so there's always that. Not to mention how she was able to figure out why these flimsy water bottles were being sold and why the biscuits were so determined to run against Blythe in the first place. So Ekans, if you could please post the image of Blythe snapping the picture of the delivery truck and the image of the picture blown up on the projector, you'll see how clever Blythe is at solving these little mysteries. That's right, students. Look at those funny little markings underneath the picture. We call them words. Blythe exposing the biscuits and their water bottle scandal was genius. Pure genius. Very well. Now to move on to the part where the biscuits hired campaign advisors and paid off the kitchen staff to sabotage Blythe's campaign food association. I understand the real-life context of playing dirty tricks on your opponent in real-life elections to make them look bad, but going this far for a simple election where the only real issue being addressed is flimsy water bottles just seems to be pushing it. At least they got their comeuppance at the end when those same water bottles sprayed them. I definitely understand why the biscuits chose to run for class president, and that was to prevent Blythe from getting rid of the water bottles their father was trying to make the school sell on his behalf. I didn't understand it at first, but after rewatching the episode a few times, I definitely understand why the biscuits did whatever they could to prevent Blythe from winning. At least that's what I think they were going for. Maybe I'm just overthinking the whole election storyline, but speaking of overthinking, maybe I'm doing it again here, but was the joke of a writing candidate named Reboot Election actually being the name of a new exchange student supposed to be funny? To some extent, yes, it was funny, but to me, it seemed like Reboot Election was a contrived, if not forced joke to make it seem like the class election had to end with a winner of some sorts, or at the bare minimum to end the episode on a more humorous note. It's like Minka's tap hands in Sunil's sick day. It's funny enough for a joke, but not authentic enough to have a natural flow to the story. But don't think I don't have anything good to say about this episode. I really got a laugh from seeing the pets freak out from the buzzing and humming sound. Minka turning her head a full 360 was scary, creepy, and I loved it. Almost as much as I loved the bees looking like little insect versions of the pets. Kinda strange, but still very funny. And finally, 2 for 1 was the song that highlighted the episode in my book. Out of all 5 current Biscuit songs, this one is ranked number 5, but it's still a great one to listen to. One last thing, and it's neither positive nor negative, but if you look really close throughout the first half of the episode, the Biscuits' campaign images reverse the hairstyles on both twins. This even happens to the real, living Biscuits themselves as they're hoisting their flag while singing the song. Ekans, if you could be so kind as to post the images of what I'm saying here, you can all see what I mean. This whole hair thing just seems so cray. In short, Inside Job is not hated by any means. I just don't think it's a very strong episode. I understand the reasoning for everything that happened in this episode, and I appreciate it for doing its job, but like I said earlier, it doesn't mean I have to enjoy it, which I honestly didn't. I give this episode a 6.6 out of 10. It's not too memorable, but certainly will never be blacklisted as the worst episode ever made, if one even exists. Does it? I don't think so.
So next week's episode will be from Season 1, and we only have a few more episodes from Season 1 to review, so let's see what this randomizer gives us.
Bring on the randomizer!
And the randomized episode is Penny for Your Laughs.
Mmm.
Nice.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna have fun with this one.
That's actually a pretty good one.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's not my favorite in the world, but it's still pretty good. Alright, so this is Littlest 98.
ICanSnake.
CC Trainor-Ling.
And we will see you guys next week. Adios.
Peace out, home slices.
See you later.